Nature. How does nature improve human health and well-being? Well, we've known for decades and hundreds of scientific studies tell us this, is that nature helps human health and well-being. Now, when I did the compendium of all these different scientific articles on nature and how they help humans and their health, the commonality that I saw, and I've done this about the last 10 years, is oh, it must be cortisol. It has to be the stress hormone cortisol. When you create calm using nature, anything you do to create calm could help the body be in a better place to make things and fix things and be happy and healthy. But I think we can turn it up a notch with some of the most recent data, even though the historical data is quite profound, including a really good example of just sitting and looking out the window. So what they found is that patients that had had their gallbladder taken out, a cholecystectomy, if their recovery room overlooked a green space instead of a non-green space, so like looking out the window where there's trees and grass versus no window in your room where you're looking out over a big concrete slab wall, is less post-op complications, less post-op infections, shorter length of stay. Oh my gosh, just sitting around in a recovery room after surgery where we can look out the window is so therapeutic for us as humans. But then with some of this newer data about sunlight, now we're taking it up to a whole new level. Now, sunlight may not be a big factor when it comes to indoor gardening being therapeutic and looking out a window post-operatively. But what we also see is the far infrared and the infrared, but also some UVB is profoundly therapeutic for humans. And this is a super central mechanism. So in the back of our eyes, we have our retina. And most of the retinal cells are what they call image-forming retinal cells. So light energy photons hit those image-forming retinal cells. They project information up to the part of the brain called the visual cortex, so we can see images, right? We can see what's around us. But the retina is also made up of non-image forming retinal cells. Now, these non-image forming retinal cells, when light hits them, they project to all these different brain parts. Parts involved in our metabolism, parts involved in our mood, parts involved in our emotions called the amygdala, parts involved with circadian rhythm called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Oh my gosh, is this a central mechanism? Because every cell in the body has this unique circadian rhythm, a 24-hour cycle, including this profound circadian rhythm within the intestinal microbiome. And then we also project information to the hypothalamus. Now, the hypothalamus is part of that HPA axis. Hypothalamus, pituitary gland, adrenal gland sits on top of the kidney and makes the stress hormone cortisol. So this information that comes from our non-image forming retinal cells, when light, ideally within the first 3 hours after sunrise, hits these body parts, it resets a healthy HPA axis. HPA axis is how does our body deal with stress? We want a very robustly healthy HPA axis so that no matter what kind of stress is trying to throw us off, physical, emotional, spiritual, you name it, it doesn't throw us off. We're solid. It may be something that you would not wish on your worst enemy, but does not throw you off, create health issues within you, drive chronic disease any longer. A disrupted HPA axis, which is so common. We have such a stressful world around us, always just throwing off cortisol and this HPA axis. If we have a disrupted one, any little stress or physical, emotional, spiritual is going to get inside of us and throw us off. An example could be, geez, just a change in the weather, a little physical change in our environment. Oh, my joints hurt when the weather changed. That is not supposed to happen. Somebody, let's say with autoimmune disease, trying to fight the fight against excessive inflammation, keep it low so they feel good. Well, geez, every time my relatives come to visit me over the holidays, I have a flare and I need a steroid shot. It's like, oh, you poor thing. The emotional stress from your family visiting actually caused a flare because your HPA axis is not robustly healthy. But the light nature can actually reset that, including this non-image forming retinal cells helping all these brain parts, helping all this body. parts is such a central mechanism that when a woman's pregnant with a baby early in the second trimester, about a third of the way through the pregnancy, there's not a lot of baby parts that are fully formed and functioning at that point, but a body part that is fully functional that early in the pregnancy are these non-image forming retinal cells. Babies see light coming through the abdominal wall and the uterine wall early on in the pregnancy. And we now know, and I got a chance to lecture about this in Paris not too long ago, that it is profoundly important for the development of all these different brain parts, including healthy emotions, healthy circadian rhythms, a healthy HPA axis being developed before the child's even born. Oh my gosh, including, because there's a connection with the gut, the baby's gut microbiome, even before they're born, and we're trying to set it up in a healthy way. This is going to help the fetal microbiome start setting up healthy, good bacteria, bad bacteria mix in the gut even before they're born. Oh my gosh, nature is so powerful and so smart that this particular way of utilizing nature is actually done by babies before they're even born, early in their development.